Okay, boys and girls, so we are going to continue our study today of graphing and data. Today we're going to be doing lesson 5 in chapter 7. I hope you have your textbook with you now and open to page 234 and your notebook out and open and something to write with. And it's math class, so it should be a pencil. If not, you should pause the video, go get those things and open up to the right pages, the next blank page in your notebook, and your textbook should be open to page 234, okay? If not, pause the video and go get it. Okay, now I'm assuming that everybody has got what they need and is ready to go. So, the first thing we want to do is we want to put chapter 7-5 on the top of the page. We want to write what the topic is, which is line plots, and put today's date. And that's what we're going to talk about first. Now, please look at the frequency table, the tally chart on page 234. It has this information on it. You should copy this data chart, which is the same one that's in your book, into your notebook now. So you're going to pause the video, you're going to make this tally chart, and you're going to put it, you're going to skip a line under here, skip a line, and draw this. When you're done, start the video up again. Okay, so now you have drawn the tally chart about the drama club members. And what we're going to do with the information that's in this tally chart is we are going to create our fourth type of graph that we learned. We learned about pictographs, and we use tally charts for all of these. Our pictograph, our bar graph, our circle graph, and now today, something that's called a line plot. And a line plot uses a number line, and then above the numbers on your number line, every time one of those numbers occurs, you put an X above it. And when the second one, you put another X, and the third one on top of that. And you just put an X for every single person that's in your data sample above the number on the number line that it belongs to, okay? So you just use X's on a number line to represent the information. Okay, so this tally chart, which is also the one that's in your book, shows the ages of students in the drama club. Now, how would we show this data from a tally chart on a line plot? Well, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to make our line plot is we're going to make a number line for the data, okay? So, step 1, to make a line plot, we'll add this underneath the tally chart that you drew, skip another line, and you're going to write, to make a line plot, colon. Now we're going to write the steps. The first thing is you make a number line for the data that is going to be in your chart, in your tally chart. So if we look here on our tally chart, we have the ages from 7 to 11. So we have to make sure that we include at least, I would go a little bit before the 7 and a little bit after the 11, because those are the ages of the kids that are in this set of data. Now your book only goes from 7 to 11. But I've told you this in the past for other types of graphs, that it is better to put a little bit before and a little bit after the actual data so that the person who's looking at your information knows that nothing was cut off the edges, that what you've got is all of the information. So that's first thing you do is you make a number line for the data. In this case, it's going to be from 6 to 12 on our number line, okay? The second step is to draw an X, and I'm going to make it big so that you know. Draw an X above the number for each student of that age. Now, obviously, if we had different information, if it wasn't about how old the kids in the drama club were, you would put an X on top of whatever the thing is that you are asking them in your survey. They were asking all the kids in their drama club, how old are you? Okay, but what if they asked all the kids in the drama club whether they preferred baseball or football or soccer or basketball? Which of those four did they approve? Well, then every time somebody said baseball or soccer or basketball, we'd put an X above that. It depends what you're asking them. In this case, we're putting it an X for every student above the age that they are. And then step 3, you have to give a title to your graph. A title for your data. Now, I always use the same name on my tally chart as I do on my graph. Okay? All right, so these are our steps. Pause the video now and copy them down. If you haven't copied them as I was writing them, you should pause the video and start again. Alrighty. I assume that you've already copied it because you've paused the video, and now we're going to follow the instructions. So the first thing that we were told to do is we're going to make a number line for our data. So a number line, whoops, this one's getting a little dry. Let's pick a different color. A number line goes on in both directions forever, so we put arrows at the end. We are going to start our number line at 6. Even though we look in when we look at our data chart, when we look at our frequency table, the lowest age is 7 years and the oldest age is 11 years, but we're going to make it a little bit further on the beginning and the end so that we make sure we have all our data. So at the end, we're going to put 12. Then we're going to mark off 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. Okay? So we've got our number line. When you draw this, you should skip a lot of space in your book so that you can make, in fact, I'm even going to have to lower mine a little bit because we have to make it so that all of the information, we have to be able to put a whole bunch of X's on top. So it looks like I can see all the way down to the bottom of the board in this video. So I'm going to go down pretty low on my board here. And I'm going to put 6, and I'm going to put 12, and then it's going to be 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12. Okay, I have mine a little too close on this side, you know, so maybe you want to spread yours out a little bit so there's not a big gap between 11 and 12. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make mine a little shorter. I'm going to put 12 here, like that. Okay, so the first step said to make your number line. I tell you to go a number before and a number after, okay? Using the information in your tally chart. So now step 2 says put an X above the number for each student of that age. Each X represents one student. So I don't have any at 6, but if you look here, according to our frequency table here, our tally chart, we have 2 that are 7. So I put 1X, 2 X's. Notice one's on top of the other. And for 8 years old, I have 4 X's. So I'm going to try to make my X's the same size so that I can see that this one, 8 years, is twice as high as 7 years because there's twice as many kids that are the age 8 as compared to age 7. Then 9 has 5 and 1, 6. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 10 years old also has 6. It should end somewhere near the same. And 11 years old has 3. Okay, so now if I add all my tallies to make sure I didn't forget or do any extra, I'm going to first count up all my tally marks. I have 5, 10, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 tallies. Let's see if I have 21 X's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay, so hopefully I got them right. I didn't forget anybody. I didn't count anybody twice. Okay, so there's my line plot. Now, I have to give my line plot a title. So underneath, I'm going to write my title, which is going to be the same as what it said in my tally chart. So if this information is the ages of kids, ages of drama club members. That's my title. Ages of drama club members. And that's my line plot. I'm done. So once I have this line plot, now I can answer all those same questions that I used to answer when I had a bar graph and when I had a pictograph even. So I might say I can find the mode. Now remember what mode was. Mode is the answer that comes up the most times. Now we have 2, 4, 6, 6, 3. So which answer comes up the most? Well, there's not any one single answer that in this set of data that comes up once. However, there can be 2 modes, and there are in this case. You can have 2 modes, and the 2 answers, if there's 2 that have the same amount, then they are both modes. So 9 and 10 are both modes of this set of data. It's the one that occurs the most. But if there is not one that occurs the most, and there are 2 that are the same, then they are both 2 that are the same and more than the rest, then they are both modes. If there was only one of each, then there would be no modes. Okay? But in this case, there are 2 modes. There is mode, it's 9 and 10. Now we're going to learn another vocabulary word. Besides mode, we are going to learn range. And range, you take the highest age minus the lowest age. So the highest age is 11 years old. The lowest age of this data set is 7, and you subtract it. And 11 minus 7 is 4. That's right. So the range for this set of data is 4. The highest age minus the lowest age is the range. And the mode is the one that occurs the most. And if there are 2 that are tied for the most, then there are 2 modes. If none of them are different than each other, then there is no mode. Okay? There is no highest. Alrighty, let's take a moment to write the vocabulary for this lesson. Mode and range. So pause the video and copy the vocabulary for this lesson, mode and range, with their definition. Skip a line under your line plot that you drew and put this information. When you're done, restart the video. Okay, I am going to assume now that you have restarted the video, that you've got everything copied, and we are going to now look at textbook page 235, and we're going to do some examples together. So there is a tally chart on page 235, the years that people have lived in Fanwood, which I guess Fanwood is a town. And what they did was they surveyed a bunch of students, maybe from their class even, let's say, okay? And they give you a set of data. So I'm going to modify this chart just a little bit. Instead of the word tally, I'm going to write number of students, like it says in your textbook. Number of students. And instead of student age, it's just going to be years, because that's how many years they lived there. Years. And the title of our data, our tally chart this time is years. I'm going to abbreviate it YRS because my board's really small. Years living in Fanwood. Okay. Then when they wrote down the number of years, they apparently nobody lived there less than 2 years, because they started out with 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Nope, no 4. They went 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, because that's what they got as answers. When they went around, they made a list and they wrote, you know, Mary, however many years, Johnny, how many years. And then they had to organize it in some way and make it easier to read. And that's when they decided to do the tally chart. And they saw that they did not have anybody who answered 4 years. They had 2 and 3, and then they skipped right to 5, 6, and 7. And nobody lived there longer than 7 years in the group that they surveyed. Now, when they did that, they found that they had 1 person who lived there for 2 years, and 3 people who lived there for 3 years, 2 people that lived there for 5 years, 10 people lived there for 6 years, and 7 people lived there for 7 years. So this is what their tally chart looked like that you can see on page 235. Okay, so number 1 says, make a line plot from the data in this tally chart. So we're going to make our number line on the bottom, because that's step 1. And it's going to go from 2 to 7, which, remember, I told you I wanted you to start a little bit before. So instead of 2, we're going to start at 1. And instead of ending at 7, we're going to end at 8. Okay, then we're going to put in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and 8 years. Now, we're going to put 4 in there on our number line, even though nobody answered 4 years in our survey. We're still going to include it on our number line. We don't skip over 4 just because no one answered that. Okay. Alrighty, so we've included 1 and 8 in our number line, even though no one responded that. And we also included number 4. All right, so now we're going to put an X for every time someone in our tally chart answered one of these numbers. Well, nobody answered 1 year, but we have one person who lived there for 2 years, so we put 1X. Then we had 3 people who lived there for 3 years, so then I'm going to put 3 X's, one on top of each other, for 3 years. Nobody answered 4 years, so I'm going to skip it. And 2 people answered 5 years. And 10 people answered 6 years. That's why it's important for you to leave a lot of space up here, because you have to be able to put 10 X's there in this case. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then 7 people answered 7 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alrighty, so let's make sure we counted everybody. If we use our tally chart, we'll count our 5s first. 5, 10, 15. Plus 2 is 17. Plus 2 is 19. Plus 3 is 20, 21, 22, 23. Let's see if we have 23 X's. We're going to start with 10 and 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Did I say 23? Let's see. 5, 10, 15, 20, 22, 23. Yep. Okay. So we are matched. We didn't forget anybody and we didn't duplicate anybody. Okay. So that's number 1. Now we can answer the questions. Question 2 says, how many students have lived in Fanwood for 6 or 7 years? So now we're going to look at 6 and we're going to look at 7. There are 10 plus 7. So for the answer to number 2, to figure it out, you're going to do 10 plus 7 equals 17 students. So that's our answer for number 2. For number 3, what is the range for the number of years the students lived in Fanwood? Now we already just learned that range is the highest response total minus the lowest response total. So it is 7 is the highest minus 2. So it is 5. 5 is the range, not 5 years. 5 is the range. And then question 4 asks us, what is the mode for the data in this line plot? And then we have to explain. So remember what mode is. Mode is the answer that occurs most frequently. So obviously the answer that occurs most frequently is 6 years. So 6 is the number that appears most frequently. So the mode equals 6 and 5 is the range. Okay, now you're going to try the practice problems on that page on your own.